That's fucking them days. Them days we didn't get a break. Go on, Jan. Go on, get a drink. Boom.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Roker Report podcast in association with the Sunderland Community Soup Kitchen. It's Gav and you join us bang on full time as Sunderland have been thrown back into the Lions' den, having been 1-0 up going into injury time, managed to chuck away 3 points. Millwall grabbed a point. We're going to get straight into it. Today is a bit of a review mashed up with whatever's going to happen because we play again on Tuesday. This week's going to be absolutely crazy. We're going to dive straight into it. Joining me is Chris. Hello, mate.
Hello. You didn't quite know how to put it there. And it's funny because like your sentence structure kind of summed up how I'm feeling. I just don't know how to feel about it at the minute.
I know, mate. Jesus Christ. We looked like we were going to see the game out. And then we pile forward right at the end. Alexic doesn't finish his shot, which he probably should. Not going to blame the lad. But then because we've piled forward, the team shape's an absolute mess. Millwall get it down the left-hand side. O'Nien and I think it's Mepham both go to the ball. They get dragged across, which means Elise is dragged across. And to be honest, the team look absolutely shagged. And Millwall take advantage and score. And feels like a massive kick in the teeth. Before the game, would have took a point. But I feel hard done to because I just feel like we had the win right there. I mean, I think I said it after Coventry about having the win in the palm of our hands. I mean, this was that times a billion. We were literally minutes from the full-time whistle. I mean, give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an odd one, and it's one of them where you really just don't know how to feel about it. Where you, like you said, that before the game. I mean, we were chatting all through the week, and we said, you know, we'd be more than happy with a draw. We were talking in the morning of the game, more than happy with a draw. Millwall in form, one of 3 sides unbeaten in the last 6 games. It was like us and West Brom, and West Brom had drawn like 5 of them. So there was kind of basically the informed sides in the division. And I would have taken a draw, especially, you know, again, you come back to Dennis Serkin, Che Hume, you know, Brown, Bellingham, Mundle, Roberts. I mean, bloody hell, that's 6 players who would get into pretty much any championship starting 11.
Yeah.
And that's kind of half a side missing. So you go to somewhere like Millwall, always tough to go to, especially when they're in form and they're looking good. And you start off the game playing really well and you get ahead. And to me, I mean, you can talk about the last 5 minutes and all this sort of stuff, but for me, I think the place where it was really lost was not getting that second goal when we're on top.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we can't legislate for it, and I'm certainly not blaming it. But I think when the medical emergency happened, it sucked not just out of us, it sucked the wind out the game. And by the time we came back out, it just felt a bit weird. And then we had that period, and then second half was totally different. By the way, second half we'd had time to kind of fix it, we'd had time to put our finger on it. But I can't help but wonder, you know, had the game just flowed as it had, maybe we would have got that second goal. I don't know.
No, because I think if you kind of watch the game back again, the 10-minute period before the incident in the crowd, Millwall started to get on top. We were giving so many cheap fouls away in midfield, and they were just pumping the ball forward, and they were putting us under pressure. And I thought actually the break, it was kind of almost like, you know, because you didn't know kind of the seriousness of what had happened. But when the game got stopped, I thought it was a chance for us to regroup, because I thought we'd lost control of the game for 10 minutes before that happened. And then when it restarted the same way. We didn't, like you said, we didn't fix it. And then after half time, we didn't fix it again. We came out where it was just all a bit bizarre, where we kind of, and again, I kind of thought this about the Coventry game, that I'm all for sitting back and soaking up pressure, but you have to have an outlet. You have to have someone to be able to hold the ball up. And we didn't have it again. Yeah. So every time we cleared it, and sometimes the aimless clearances to where it was just sliced clear or like smashed over the top. And you're like, you know, for me, if you're under the cosh, you have someone who you try and hit, whether it's over the top or you try and just get it up to him so he can chest it, knock it up to his feet so he can give you a bit of respite so you can get out. But we didn't have that, and we just got penned in too easily. But like I said, again, you can do that. You grabbed hold of a lead, you get a lead, and you can do that. That's not necessarily a bad thing, to sit on the edge of the box to kind of 2 banks of 4. but you've got to have someone who can hold the ball up. And when you're just giving the ball away cheaply and not having a target or not having a way of getting it out. But again, if we'd getting that second goal when we're on top in the first half, it might not have been such a big thing.
Yeah, I guess so. I think generally I wasn't in disagreement with the way we played the second half, although I want to see us dominate games. I think it was inevitable we were going to let Millwall have a bit of the ball, and I don't know. I think whilst we let them have the ball, and this is something me and you talked about privately during the week. I was quite looking at Millwall coming into the game. Don't keep the ball much. Don't want the ball much. I was thinking, well, maybe the game plan will be to let them have it at some stage, and we did. I don't know whether that was the game plan or not, but they certainly didn't get too close to Patterson's goal until they did score, and that was not when we were sitting back. That was us piling forward and leaving gaps.
Well,
I don't know. Well, I don't think he had loads to do.
He didn't, but I thought there was a couple of really good chances they missed. There was a couple of headers around the hour mark, just before the hour mark, where they should have really getting back on level terms at that point in the second half. I mean, I know what you mean, that they didn't create too many chances and it seemed like we had them at arm's length, and, it didn't seem like they were kind of cutting us open every 2 minutes to do that. But at the same time, I wrote a couple of times during that second half, I was just desperate for someone to put a foot on it. And there was a couple of times where the ball dropped to Dan Neil in midfield. And I thought, right, brilliant, just slow it down, just kind of bring the ball back, keep possession. And he would try and play a worldie and give it away. And I was going, what? I was saying, stop doing that. Just keep the ball.
I think that's where we missed Jobe, to be honest. And we've missed him the last few games. I'm glad he's back on Tuesday, because he puts his foot on the ball and slows things down and knows what to do.
He does.
I just think Dan Neil, you're right, should know to do that. But I thought we started the game pretty well. Yep. I thought that we looked really in control, and that control went away. And yeah, a lot of it was trying to get the ball forward to nothing. I don't know I don't know if you listened to the same commentary as me, but I think it was the Millwall commentators. They were talking about how windy it was in the ground, and you could tell even when they were pumping it forward, like the ball was going all over the place, which is fine if you're defending it and it makes it easier to defend. But when you want the ball to stick up front and it isn't, it means it keeps coming back. I mean, I lost count of the amount of times the ball in the second half came straight back to a Millwall. Yeah. Millwall defender, win the header, win the flick, straight back on the ball. Yeah. I was trying to think, what do we do in that instance? Like, it's tough. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
No. I don't understand that, because I think like the likes of, and I'm just picking out Dan Neil because I noticed it a couple of times, but the likes of Dan Neil should know better in those situations, and to try and play a 30, 40 yard ball wide to Mayenda instead of coming back and saying, right, well, like someone like the two centre halves drop and give it to them and play it between the midfield, and then have a bit of a rest on possession and allow the team to get out a bit and fan out a bit. Because the problem is, like you said, when that 30, 40 yard diagonal doesn't come off, your players are all out of position and the opposition's just coming back. Yeah, but fair enough, try it once or twice as something different. But we were just trying it time and time again, and every time we were giving the ball away. And the problem was, you can say, oh, well, if that's just a constant tactic, but we never did that in the first 20 minutes. We were playing football in the first 20 minutes. We got the ball down and we were going at them. And, in that second half when we were 1-0 up, we didn't stop the game from being chaotic. Like, when you're 1-0 up, what you want is complete control over the game. You want control over the tempo. You want control over the speed of the game. And you just need someone to put on it. And when you lose control like that, and it's just end to end, and it's just a game of pinball, I mean, you've lost control, and there's every chance like something's going to happen, like it did in injury time.
I just think it's frustrating more than anything, isn't it? Because particularly given the run we've been on. I mean, this is the fourth game on the bounce, and look, there are excuses. But at the same time, they don't wash when it's basics that you're getting wrong. Like, there was no need to plough forward. You could have the best players in the world on the pitch, but you still don't plough forward like we did towards the end. I think that was just a tactical mistake, a rush of blood from whoever was on the pitch. I think that, I mean, let's just look at it. We had nothing on the bench, so naturally we had Elise tired, Watson's not played 90 minutes, Sahila been tired, Mayenda's been out for a while, Ballard's not played for a while. Alexic's first minutes on the pitch for us, so it's brain dead to pile forward at that stage. We looked tired from about 70 minutes onwards.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big reason why we sat in, because we just looked tired. And I can totally get that, given all the reasons I've just said. All those players who haven't had minutes, they're bound to tire as the game goes on. Just manage the game out. I honestly, I'm more frustrated because it felt like we were managing the game out, and then last couple of minutes it just goes to shit. And we've got to learn from that. We've got to. But I mean, we're fortunate in a way. I mean, look, we're unbeaten in 9 games, but 4 of them have been draws on the bounce, and we're still top of the league, but by goal difference.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a big week for us. We've got a game on Tuesday and we've got a game on Friday. The game on Friday is against the team who we're level on points with. So we've got to learn quickly whatever we do, because
look,
we can't do that on Tuesday night again.
Look, we should caveat this by saying, because we're frustrated with how we're kind of panned out, and I think part of the frustration is that we almost invited it, and it felt like we were inviting that pressure. That's part of the frustration, but you have to caveat the whole thing by saying we went to a tough place like Millwall, and we were that close from getting all 3 points. And you could see, I mean, the lads were absolutely knackered. They put everything into it. Like Ballard was knackered, Mepham was absolutely knackered. Elise, he was kind of out on his feet at the end. There was, last 10 minutes, I saw a point where there was a Millwall player who just kind of strode away from Watson because he was knackered. I don't think, I doubt he's been involved in many games like that. Obviously, he hasn't had many minutes in senior football at all. I mean, they were playing in the end. They had to be in kind of that zone where they were thinking about the game for like 2.5 hours in the end. Finished about 5:30. So, the lads put everything into it. So, I mean, you can't fault them on that side of things. It's just the frustrations come out of, like I said, inviting that pressure. And if you took it in isolation, it might not be as much. But coming off the back of the Coventry game where we invited pressure in that game, and again, I go back to this point where it's not necessarily a bad thing to say, let's set our stall out, get into position, and let's defend. Because I think actually the way the manager sets us up sometimes, that he's just got so much trust in the players he's put in that back four that he thinks, well, we can defend, we can do that. And we've shown we can. But the problem is at the other end. I repeat that it's happened twice, where at the other end, when you don't have a focal point to hit, then you cause yourself a problem because there's too much pressure, and you need an outlet and you need a plan to get out. And sometimes when you play on the counter attack, as we did, and then we pile those players forward, it's almost more tiring than when you build up the play in terms of possession, because you're sprinting 50 yards up, and when you give away possession, you've got to sprint all the way back. And I think part of it, I mean, you saw how knackered the players were, and when that ball was played across, you saw how close Ballard was to that when the ball was played across the face of the box. And you're thinking, if he's not hobbling back, he's cutting that out.
Mm-hmm. I think this is it as well. You talk about the frustrations, and I think if we win this game, obviously it's a massively different conversation, but there were so many good things in the game and the performance, which I was over the moon with up until we concede. Thought Chris Mepham was outstanding, and then get sucked across for the goal. But thought Coburn, given he was such a handful, Mepham just dealt with him. He was outstanding. He was an absolute Rolls Royce. I mean, he can do everything that you want a centre half to do. He was brilliant. Thought, considering he's never played there for a while, Luke O'Nien did well at right back. I thought Elise, considering he's not played in ages, had a good game up until the goal. You watch him, he's flagging by the time that goal goes in. Yeah. You mentioned Ballard. It was a game that would suit Ballard because they would just direct us out. So you were asking him to head the ball a lot. And we've talked in the past, haven't we, about when you ask him to play out from the back, he's not as comfortable. Yeah. But this was a game that suited him because they were piling it forward and he just had to kick and head it. And I thought defensively he was awesome. I thought Alexic actually played really well when he come on. Just knocked his chance up with the goal that he could have scored. Watson first half, I thought played really well, looked good on the left. I thought Mayenda was constantly a threat down that right-hand side and they didn't really know what to do with him. You could kind of tell they hadn't planned for him on the right-hand side because they just didn't know anything about him. So, if we'd won the game, these are the things we'd be talking about. We'd be talking about all these things. And that's all in spite of being missing, what was it, 5 players who would normally have played. Like, that was a big thing going into this game. Who the hell's going to play? What's the formation going to be? How's it going to go? I was fearing the worst. I was thinking, I'd take a point. I seen the amount of change in the team, and I'm thinking it'll be a tough ask to go there and get anything. Given they were, well, they still are. I think they were beaten 6 or whatever it is at home. Beat Leeds, beat Burnley. They don't concede many goals, so I would have took a point before the game. It's just obviously the way the game plays out. It makes you feel more disappointed as a result. But I would have definitely sat here before the game and have taken that. I'm just frustrated, really.
Yeah, when you're seconds away, you've got to be frustrated. You've got to feel, you're going to feel like this, like I said at the beginning, because I was going, before the game, I was going, get a point, it'll be brilliant. Get a point, it'll be fantastic. And then we'll get a point, and I'm gutted. So I'm all confused. And you mentioned that. I mean, it was a good point about the bench, because I think about the kind of the situation with Bar and Oshish. I think that basically tells you everything, because Watson could have been brought off because he was absolutely knackered. Isidore could have been brought off. He was absolutely knackered. Rigg could have been brought off. He looked out on his feet, and we had I think he had so kind of a lack of trust on the players at the back, like the defensive players he had on the bench, that, he didn't want to bring one of those up, one of those players off and stick one of those on and put 5 at the back or something like that.
Yeah.
And we're saying this, and he was criticised for putting 5 at the back a couple of weeks ago. So it's kind of this catch-22, and it's all about it. And I've mentioned it a few times that, I talked about the Coventry game and talking about moments, and there was a point in the Coventry game when we were 2-1 up and Isidore nearly went clean through, and if he tapped it around the goalkeeper and scores, and it's 3-1, that's all 3 points. And in this game, we went through on goal. If that's 2-0 in the 90, well, I actually timed it. So when the keeper saved it, it was like 91 minutes, 52 seconds. And they put the ball in the back of the net, 92 minutes and 8 seconds. So it was like 16 seconds between the keeper making the save and them scoring. But then the thing is, down that left-hand side, we had a couple of chances to put our foot in and win the ball at that point, and we didn't do it then. So, yeah, okay, he misses the chance, but then you stick a foot in, or somebody like O'Nien just drops 20 yards instead of going forward 20 yards, and the centre-halves don't push across, and Ballard isn't limping at the end. It's all these things, it's all these moments that go into it, and it's fine lines. We would have been 2 points better off.
Yeah, well, that leads us into the game on Tuesday against West Brom. Back at the Stadium of Light, it's the clash of the draw specialists. We've drawn our last 4, and I've just counted there while you were talking. West Brom have drawn 7 of the last 8, starting with a game against Millwall, actually, in October. Millwall, Oxford, Blackburn, West Brom, Luton, Blackburn, Cardiff, Luton, Burnley. Then they beat Hull before the international break, and then they've drawn this weekend with Norwich. So, clash of the draw specialists, and I think it's a game where I you don't want another draw, do we? Come on. That would be the 5th on the bounce. We've got to win this one, I think, regardless of the fact that West Brom are doing what they're doing. It kind of feels like a relief ultimately, because we're back at home. Jobe will be back, Hume will be back, we'll have Roberts to call upon, although I'd probably stick with Mayenda given how he played. We've got options again, which is good. I think I mentioned it right at the top. Jobe's been such a miss. Like, he's been our player of the season for me. Yeah. And you don't draw them 3 games that we've drawn with him in the team, I don't think. I think it's totally different set of circumstances. I just think we have more control in games. We're more physically adept. Basically, everything he brings, we've lacked. We've lacked his height. We've lacked his physical presence. We've lacked his control in the midfield. We've lacked his ingenuity at times when he can just start things off for us. We've lacked the way that he gives us time on the ball that other players can't. We talked about Dan Neil before. He doesn't have that in his armoury. Yeah. So we're going to have all these things again on Tuesday, and obviously Trey Hume coming back's a big plus. I mean, it gives the manager something to think about at the back ultimately, because it's hard to drop somebody. But I mean, these are positives coming into this game, at least, aren't they? That we've got a few players back who we can actually strengthen the team with, as opposed to what we had coming into this game where we just didn't know what the team would be.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the players coming back, like I said, those big six, but with Bellingham coming back, Hume coming back. But I think the big thing for me is the ability to make almost like-for-like changes during games. I think that's what we've missed in the last couple of games. I think that like if you look on I was looking at the bench before the game for this one, and it was a sign of just how much we're missing.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even mention, by the way, Hjelde and Rusin weren't even on the bench.
Yeah. And the kind of the surprise, well, to me, that Sergen was missing. It's just that ability. And when he turns around and looks at his bench, when he needs to make changes during games and he wants to make an impact on what's happening, and he turns around and he says, well, what can I do? And I think this game told you everything about his trust in those players that are left. That he couldn't really do anything. He was standing there going, well, what can I do? I can put fresh legs on, but is that better than do I keep someone who's running on fumes on the pitch? And he had to make that decision. So yes, these players coming back can impact the starting 11, but the other thing is, like I said, I just think it's important to kind of beef up that bench, because I think in the last two games we needed it. And in terms of West Brom, yeah, okay, we are returning at home where we're unbeaten, which is fantastic, of course, but we are taking on the best away record in the division. They've taken 15 points from 8 games away from home. We've won 4 out of 8. They've only lost in 1. Although, having said that, talking about their run of draws, in the last 5, they've only won 1 away from home, but they've drawn 3 of those. So you could say on the other side, well, they've only lost 1. So they are the best team in the division on paper at the minute on the road. The top scorers by quite a distance as well. In terms of those top sides, they've scored 14 goals away from home. You've got Watford next on 13, and then there's us, Bristol City and Borough on 11. And they've only conceded 8, so they concede on average a goal a game. So, they're pretty handy away from home. So I don't think it's a given. And you're talking about them being full of draws and us being full of draws. And I think that's where my money would be for Tuesday.
Yeah, you took the question right off as I was going to ask you what you thought the score
would be. I had 1-1 for today.
Yeah,
I had some cash on it because I've been saying it all week.
Oh, you had some cash on it?
Yeah, I've been saying it. I'm gutted. I'd rather not, if I'm honest. But if there's a silver lining. But yeah, I've been saying 1-1 all week about the Millwall game, and I can see a score draw during the week as well.
Yeah, that'll go down like a fart. We need to win. I think we need to just get back to winning.
Well, that's it.
That sounds really obvious. But, a win would make a huge difference going into that Sheffield United game as well, wouldn't it?
It will, but at the same time, look, if you're not getting beat, you're keeping that form up, you keep morale up because you're just not getting beat, and the wins will come. If you look at how many players we've got out, to go to somewhere like Millwall, I mean, like I said, I would have snapped your hand off. If you'd offered me a point this morning, I would have said, yep, give us a point. I'll get out of Millwall as quickly as possible, take a score draw. But the way it happened, it kind of changes your psychology on it. It changes the way you look on it. We're going away from home against good sides and getting decent results. It almost feels like a defeat, which is awful because they put everything into it and we've come away with a good point. Well, it's one of those that Luke and I said about a result a few weeks back that we'll look back on this and think, bloody hell, that getting a point away at Millwall was a good point. It was just the way it happened. So we can't look on like draws as being the end of the world because bloody hell, we're 9 unbeaten or whatever it is. If we keep getting a couple of draws but then chuck in a couple of wins eventually, we'll still be up there.
Yeah. I'm still going to go with a win to us. I think who's going to get the goal? Jobe on his big return. I think he'll have been. He seems quite a thoughtful player, doesn't he? And it's his first suspension, so he's had to sit and watch us sort of not have him on the pitch and sit back and go. He'd been sat watching that, going, "I could have been useful there. If I'd have been on the pitch there, we wouldn't have lost that." He'll be thinking all these things. So I think he'll be absolutely dying to play, and I'm just looking forward to the game. And that sounds really weird considering we're recording half an hour after full time, and I should feel flat as a pancake. I'm just kind of trying to look past this somehow and look to the West Brom game, and fingers crossed we pull a rabbit out the hat. But it's just frustrating, as I say. But we've got to try and look forward. And I think you made a canny point there, and I think I've said this a few times in the last few weeks. But if this is us on a bad run and we're not losing games, then I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the problem is if we lose the next 2 and then it makes us feel a lot worse. We've just got to try and focus on the next game. This is a home game coming up. West Brom, the record's fantastic, as you've said, but I don't fear them. I think we've got to be confident because our home record is brilliant. Our home record's outstanding. One thing you can say about us is that we've got goals in us, and we just need to try and stop making silly errors that are leading to us chucking points away. But I'm sure they'll be working on that, and fingers crossed. Fingers crossed Tuesday goes a lot better than this. But,
well, you say it goes a lot better. I mean, that's some of you've got to take some positives out of this. It wasn't, we came out with a good draw.
I mean, like I said, I said, there's been a fairly few positives. I just think, it's the way it happens, isn't it? If we're the ones scoring the goal in the 93rd minute or whatever it was, then we're sitting here buzzing, and it's just the way it happens. Well, that's it.
Look, if you look at that second half, we were fairly. You've got to hold your hands up and say we were pretty poor second half. And if that goal if they scored one of those headers, 5-10 minutes into the first half, and we held on for a point, we'd be now talking completely differently, saying what a brilliant point that was. That they got back, we held on, they didn't get another. It's a different conversation just because of the time of the goal. But then would be really happy with a point and saying that was a great point, battled lads, brilliant. And it's just a strange thing that the way that late goals make you feel because you were that close to getting 3 points. But we'd been over the moon if we'd conceded half an hour earlier. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. Well, cheers, mate. Thanks for that. We'll be back after Tuesday night with another pod, I'm sure. So let's cross our fingers.
I'm just going to price up 1-1 for Tuesday night.
No, you don't. People are going to start calling you names.
All right, I'll go 2-2 then.
Yeah, cheers, Chris. Cheers, listeners. Like I say, we'll be back at some point between West Brom and Sheffield United with a pod. So make sure you catch up with that. There'll be everything on rokereport.sbnation.com as well every single day between those games, leading to the games, and all that other good stuff. Thank you very much, Chris.
No bother.
I'll see you next time. Cheers, listeners. We'll catch you later.